Good evening.
Hi. I forgot my mug.
Oh,
Um,
but believe in yourself. Thanks for
I
that.
just thought this would be nice for tonight,
I love it.
this
Such
evening.
a powerful message. It ties in nicely, right, to what we'd like to talk about this morning. And that's, I suppose, the most important relationship that you will ever have, the relationship to yourself. And our chat last week about the self-talk and how your self-talk can be really a golden opportunity to understanding your relationship to yourself.
Yeah. Well, I guess you kind of have to look at what you if you're if you've got a lot of negative self-talk going on, then clearly you're not thinking too much about self-love, self-care, yeah. So that's a great indication to where your head is at with yourself, how you feel about yourself, what kind of beliefs you have about yourself or around yourself, the judgments you have about yourself.
How you relate to yourself, right?
Mm,
Essentially, how do you relate to yourself? Bit like what's coming up here for me in that to try and keep it really simple. Say if we know somebody that's not necessarily um, a pleasant or a kind or an honest person,
mm-hmm.
we will do our best to not spend time in the energy of that person.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, when so we relate to that person as maybe not trustworthy, that we're not safe or comfortable around them.
Mm,
How does that materialize in the sense of how we relate to ourselves if we don't trust ourselves, or we don't believe that we're enough, or we don't believe that we're deserving? All these identities are self self beliefs that we have about ourselves. And maybe this is another key into understanding what, like the self-talk, do you avoid maybe sitting with yourself or avoid being with yourself? Are you always distracting yourself? Do you always need to be distracted? That's kind of veering it off in a little way. But if your habits, because your habits are the highest form of communication, so that's another indication into how you relate to yourself. Because can you be present with yourself for even a couple of minutes, a half an hour, 20 minutes, without being really agitated and having that need to escape, run away, or do something to distract yourself? Another indication of how you relate to yourself. Can you be with yourself? Are you comfortable being in your own presence?
mm,
I always love to say, because I hear so many people say, oh yeah, like I love just when being by myself and reading a book or going for a run or doing etc. But it's like you're still doing. Can you just be present in stillness with your own voice, your own self-talk?
mm. Well, we kind of touched on that in the past, in one of our videos already. Yeah, it's kind of more like, can you be present? Well, when you're present, what are you doing? What are you feeding your mind? And what are you saying to yourself? Like, are you chastising yourself? Are you like putting yourself down? Are you thinking negative, um, self-loathing, unhelpful thoughts? Or are you like, what was that journal? I've started doing one. Oh, sugar. I can't think. But are you recognizing the goodness and the greatness within you? Are you acknowledging the good stuff and practicing gratitude for who you are and your accomplishments and what you've kind of achieved? Damn it, I'm reading, I can't think off the top of my head, but it's an accountability kind of journal. It's like acknowledging the good stuff so you can empower yourself to go that step further and do more and do better. It's just something I'm following. But
So
yeah,
are you saying, like, if you're in your present moment with yourself, when you're speaking there, what's jumping out to me is that internal sense. How does it feel when you're present with yourself?
mm,
And when you explain that, are you able to sit with yourself and acknowledge your greatness, acknowledge your wins,
mm.
congratulate yourself, see your accomplishments, see your achievements? Or that when you're with yourself, present and absent from everybody else, that it's this sense of what's not working, what you're not doing right, like that self-criticism, that condemning yourself, putting yourself down. Or is it that, and it all really comes down to, well, how do I kind of know that? Because you can initially relate to yourself. If something goes wrong, it depends on the situation, right? If something goes wrong, because when it's going right, it's easy to relate to ourselves, right? And feel good, even if it's a falsified sense of feeling good. But when things don't go the way that we planned, that's kind of a better indicator of your relationship to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true, because it's when you're in the worst headspace, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, because when things are all rainbows and butterflies, it's kind of a falsified sense. But when things aren't working out our way, or we've done something and we haven't been able to accomplish it or complete it the way that we desired to, are we sitting criticizing ourselves, identifying ourselves as a failure, identifying everything that went wrong and internalizing it and personalizing it and feeling terrible that we do need to grab that bottle of wine or that box of chocolates, or just can't be present because the internal discomfort is too great for your sense of feeling that you can cope with that, because the relationship to self is so mean or critical. And it's like, in those moments, are you able to say, it may not have worked out the way that I planned it, but I know that I'm more than my accomplishments, that I'm greater than whether it worked out or not, it didn't. Or I'm just always more likely to lean on the sense that when things don't work out, I'm a failure and it's my fault. Or when things don't work out, well, actually, failure is a stepping stone to success, and I'm either winning or learning. And I'm going to look at this to see what I can actually learn from this and use it as a stepping stone to amplify my greatness.
That's a great thing what you said. Am I either winning or learning, as opposed to winning or losing? Like, that learning, it's like being able to identify, it's like, right, maybe things didn't work out, or maybe I made a mess of something, or maybe I did something where you would it normally, like, condone yourself, or be like critical and whatever. Instead say, well, hey, right, it didn't work out, but what have I learned, as opposed to what did I lose? So what's the lesson in all of this? Or being able to recognize and acknowledge, because, like, what's that saying about failure as well? Failure is the road to success, isn't it? Like, you have to fail in order to succeed. So recognizing is like, instead of kind of putting yourself down, kind of just going, wow, well, if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have realized that this is a learning curve.
And what jumps out to me there when you say that, it's like, it's the meaning that we attach to it, because myself and you can go for the same thing and both of us may not get it. And depending on how you relate to yourself as a human being will determine whether you, like, dust off the cuts when you fall down, dust off the dust, rub off the blood, and look to, actually, this is brilliant. Now I know that that doesn't work, and what can work, because I'm still going to stand in my greatness, because that's how I relate to myself, that I'm not my failures. Whereas, say, somebody could see it completely different, all depending on the relationship to themselves. Like, I could fall down and stay down and hold myself down, hold myself almost like a victim to the thing that didn't work, and really spiral and feel terrible about it. So
Tony Robbins, you know Tony Robbins, of course you do. He had a great story. Like, I probably kind of more or less went like this. It's like two sons of an alcoholic father. Like, the father passed on, and later in life the two sons were interviewed or whatever. I'm sure it's like a make-believe, but like a fictional story. But and one son was being interviewed, and he was a psychologist or whatever, and the interviewer was like, well, like, you know, did you think you turn out this way or whatever? And it was like, of course I would, sure, look at my father. So he turned out being a psychologist, and the other son was a even alcoholic like his father, and was interviewed and was like, well, of course I would, look at my father. So it was kind of the perception that both of them had, having the same life experiences with an alcoholic father. So it is kind of like how you perceive your situation, or how you perceive yourself, you know, and where are you coming from? Are you going to live through an experience with a victim mindset or a creator mindset, which is, you know,
yeah, like he's seen himself subject to his ill experience, the guy who followed the same path and became a victim to his circumstances. And the other fellow said, well, I'm going to use this like almost as a stepping stone to my greatness.
Yeah. And the other son kind of blamed the fathers, like, for him turning into an alcoholic. You know, it's like, well, of course, what did you expect? Whereas the other son was like, of course, what did you expect? Which is so, like, I mean, it's so realistic in so many ways, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of children that go on to be the polar opposite to their parents, or the exact same as their parents in many different ways, you know.
Same experience, two different outcomes based on perception of self in relation to the environment based on the experience.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? But that's exactly it, though. It's kind of like what choice it boils down to choice, and I definitely think we should have a chat about choice and how it's level of importance, how so important choice is. But like, it's kind of like one of them thinking, I have a choice here, I can elevate, and the other thinking, I don't have a choice here. It's like the whole like life circumstances, life happening to you, or is life happening for you, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, or
the
like,
mindset.
really, or it's like, do I continue to fall prey to the conditioning that I've been subjected to, or do I take the opportunity that's available to me and everybody else to recondition?
Yeah.
Do I just repeat the patterns and the generational traumas over and over again? Or actually, do I understand myself from the greater dimension of who I am, that I am powerful to change my own circumstances?
And it's a hard one as well, because some people really think that they don't have a choice. Like, it really has to be pointed out. It's kind of like, you know, like, it's that aha moment that, like, we get with clients. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize I could even perceive things this way, or think this way, or, you know, like, even have that choice or option, or,
I was just, yeah, that choice is even an option.
yeah.
They don't, which
Yeah.
actually sends back into what created it in the first place, because choice is taken away from us. So then we create a relationship to ourselves that we're powerless, right? When we're younger, it's like, you don't have a choice to eat what you want. You don't have a choice to sleep what you want. You don't have a choice to wear what you want. You don't have a choice to go where you want. You're like, I don't have a choice. So when you realize you have a choice when you're an adult, it's like, what? Like, I have a choice. So it's like reconditioning the conditioning that had you believe that you didn't have a choice to change the relationship to yourself and change the outcome of your life and experience it all differently.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Again, something, you know, something so simple when you kind of think about it and realize, but yet so far removed from a concept when you don't realize it's an option. You know what I mean?
And that's why it's so important to be open-minded and open-hearted. I think, you know, even in life in general, we can get so trapped into, well, this is my point of view, this is my perspective, and really shut down and not be open and willing to even hear other people or see other perspectives. So it's always, whatever way you relate to yourself, know that there's an alternative. And if you don't quite believe that, well, then just start to open your heart and open your mind in a very gentle way, if that's where you have to start, and just listen, and then follow the patterns, follow the trajectory of people that actually have changed, and see the common aspects and things that exist in people that have gone from one extreme to the next. No more a bit like ourselves, right? We lived experiences in our own life and in our own right, but they always say success leaves clues, because there's actually laws of the universe, hermetic principles that all, when implemented and respected and understood and applied, then the change is possible in any way.
Yeah, and it usually takes like something, it usually takes like a crossroad or something traumatic or the dark night of the soul or just a complete desire to want to flip your life, to actually just sit and question and change, like to kind of go, well, what the heck am I doing with myself? How am I speaking to myself? Why am I doing this? Why aren't things changing? Why am I in this situation? What, it normally takes something
Well,
to,
yeah, it's either a crisis or just like that burning desire of
of
something better
change.
than this agitation of living life in such like turmoil and disconnect and disharmony.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
So
beautiful.
believe in yourself.
Because it is that relationship to self that really flips things around. You
Yeah, well, it's connecting to the connecting to within. What
Yeah.
is it, the Rumi one? The desire to know your own soul will end all other desires.
I just love that. I'm just breathing and feeling and embodying that because it is so, so true.
Yeah, Rumi's brilliant.
That's the core, right? That's the essence. Aoife's favorite, the essence of wholeness. That is your essence of wholeness, and that trumps everything, right?
Mm.
Okay.
And there is no negative self-talk when you are connected to the essence of
No,
wholeness,
it
because you
makes it
love
easy
every aspect, you know.
because it is love,
Yeah,
right? It is.
yeah, true.
Okay, let's
All right,
say
we're done for tonight, Manda.
thanks for joining.
I'm
Thanks for
knackered. I'm
listening.
a little bit sleepy.
It's
Been a
that
long
time of
day.
evening, isn't it? And the darker nights are coming in as
Oh, I
well.
know it's not nice. Well, whatever.
Well,
I know you have to kind of get into that mindset.
yeah, you have to. Yeah, it's a little transition, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Big love all. Take
Yeah.
care.
Take care. Bye, everybody. Bye, love.